Good afternoon and welcome to Community Candor. This session is entitled Spring into Home Ownership, and we've got a great panel with us here today that are going to share some tips and tools about buying a home. This episode of Community Candor is brought to you by Show Me the Money Day, which is an annual statewide event that kicks off tax season and is designed to connect financial education and resources to the community across the state of Michigan. Communities First is proud to be a host site for the third year for Show Me the Money Day. I am your moderator. My name is Renee Kent, and I'm the Director of Special Projects for Communities First. And I will allow our guests to do a brief introduction, and then we will kick this off. So let's go ahead and start with Sinitra.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, my name is Sinitra Oliver, and I am the branch manager of Liberty Bank and Trust for the Michigan region.
Welcome. And Don?
Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Dawn Elliott. I am a mortgage loan officer, community reinvestment loan officer with First Merchants Bank. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you. And Anthony? You're muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Anthony Reed, commercial lender with Community Bank and Trust.
Welcome, Anthony. And Alex?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alex McCann. I work for Southwest Economic Solutions, and I am the senior manager of all of our homeownership assistance programs here, so very excited to be here.
We are excited to have you. And Darren?
Hello, everyone. I'm Darren Brundage Forrest. I'm a real estate expert primarily for Southeast Michigan with the Moore Group.
Welcome, Darren. And Lisa? Oh, you're muted.
That was really good, too. I'm going to be honest with you. No, I'm just kidding. I am Lisa Lehman. I'm with the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. I am the Key to Own Homeownership Program Manager, as well as the Family Self-Sufficiency Program Manager for our statewide program.
And we are so glad to have you. So we've got a great panel here that comes with a wealth of knowledge and information and resources. So we're excited to have them. Just briefly, I'd like to introduce Communities First, the host of this Community Candor panel. Communities First is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to build healthy, vibrant communities through economic development, affordable housing, and innovative programming. We launched Community Candor in 2020 to address needs for information and resources in the community, particularly around financial education. And if you're tuning into this, please share this with others. Knowledge is power. So please share. Note that if you're watching this live, you can feel free to ask questions in the comment section, and we will answer those questions and address those as we're able. Also note that we have a survey. If you're tuning in, please fill this survey out. It helps us to know if the information that we're providing is helpful and if there are other topics that you're interested in. Also, if you complete the survey, we do have a gift card drawing, so there's a benefit there. And our panelists will be providing some additional resources. So if you complete that survey, we can get those resources out to you directly. All right. So again, put your comments in the chat. We'll address those as we go along. Fill out the survey and share. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't know about you, but I've heard many times that buying a home is a path to building wealth. And some of the features of owning a home include that if you have a fixed rate mortgage, meaning you're paying a fixed rate interest rate. It certainly provides some certainty over your monthly housing costs for a very long time, so you don't have to worry about rent increases and things like that. Additionally, it allows you to build wealth through forced savings as you pay your mortgage down. On the other hand, there are certainly some risks and limitations as a wealth building strategy. And so we're going to talk about some information, tools, and resources to help you be well prepared when purchasing a home. We've heard, over the years, a lot of people have been hurt when trying to buy a home because they were not knowledgeable. We're not working with people who had their best interests in mind. And so we want to make sure that you have the tools and resources to avoid any of those scams or pitfalls along the way. So I'd like to start with a question for anyone on the panel that would like to answer it. Oftentimes when people decide they want to buy a home, the first thing they do is they begin to focus on their credit. And oftentimes they don't talk to a professional. They just say, you know what, I want to buy a home in a couple of years. Let me start saving some money and building my credit. And then when they do talk to a professional, they're often frustrated because there's more work to do, right? So when should a person who's interested in buying a home talk to somebody, and who should they reach out to? Alex?
Yes, I'm happy to take that one. So, I am, in my opinion, as a housing counselor, as soon as possible. Credit is not the only thing, but it is an important thing that you need to begin to start thinking about when, looking to purchase a home. As you may or may not know, part of what a lender is looking at is your credit history. Which, includes your credit score. And so, while there are factors, that affect your credit score, they're really looking at, your entire credit history. So that's something that you should start working on. There's minimum, thresholds that you should work towards to become what we call mortgage ready. So reach out to a housing counselor. There are, I want to say, 10 plus housing counseling organizations throughout the city of Detroit and many more throughout the Southeast Michigan area who, that is their job to support you, to help you know what the right action steps are. And what to prioritize. And many organizations like ours partner actually with loan officers so that, maybe you do go to the loan officer first, and that's completely fine. But, a lot of times the loan officer will work with housing counseling agencies to say, hey, we've got this person interested in purchasing a home, but they really need to start working on, a couple things related to their credit report, or maybe it's even savings, and they refer them to us to work with you through that process. So, today, reach out to a housing counseling agency and get started.
Thank you, Alex. And for those that are tuning in, we are sharing Alex's contact information in the comment section. So you are more than welcome to reach out to her and her organization if you're interested in and you have some questions about what you need to do. So that's a good segue. Oh, I'm sorry, Dawn, did you have a comment?
Yes, if I could just interject, if you're somebody that's looking at maybe a Credit Karma or a Credit Sesame sort of app, keep in mind that that's a great monitoring tool and it'll give you a threshold for your credit, but that credit score is not the same score that you're going to get from a mortgage loan officer or a bank. That credit score is going to be your consumer score, maybe for a credit card or for an installment loan for a car. So don't expect that credit score will be the same thing, but definitely a great tool to monitor what's on your credit And as you're paying down debt or paying off collections, you may see that score go up so that you do know you are making improvements with your credit scores.
Thank you. That's a good point, Don. And so I'd like to segue into asking Alex some more questions about the home buyer counseling programs, how they work, is there a cost, what's involved, and what kind of information do people need to gather and to be prepared? So can you kind of walk us through your process?
Definitely, yep. So, most housing counseling organizations are, nonprofits, and we are funded, through the federal and state governments to provide this service, to our communities. The majority of homebuyer education and counseling programs are free of charge. There are some organizations that may charge for you to attend a homebuyer education course. But there are definitely, free options out there for folks, including us. We do not charge for either our counseling or education programs. And so, what's involved in that process? So we have HUD certified housing counselors on staff who will work with any interested buyer to get them mortgage ready. So, let's say you just thought that you wanted to buy a house yesterday. You can come to us, and no matter, if you've got some collections on your credit report, you've got a 550 credit score, you don't have anything saved in the bank yet, it doesn't matter. Our job is to support you throughout that process, start to finish, no matter, what point you come to us. So, we've got folks who come to us who are, almost a year away from purchasing a home as far as, preparation goes. And then we also have people who come to us who are ready, mortgage ready. They're just looking for a little extra support, making sure that they understand all the documents that they're signing and the different loan terms, that they're looking at. And they may be purchasing, within a month. But regardless of where you're at, we're here to support you through that process. We have financial coaches on staff that will work with you towards those credit related things, those savings related things, those budgeting related things, all with the goal of purchasing a home and becoming ready. And most importantly, we want to support, you all to become an informed buyer. We never want to set anybody up for failure. So we don't want, you to get into a house that is not going to be affordable long term, or, is going to need a lot of repairs and you just can't manage, those types of expenses. So we're here to make sure that you're educated and that you're, equipped to make the right decision for you and whatever your, personal situation is. So that's kind of the counseling piece of it. We also, offer education courses. So we have an orientation course that, really just gives you an overview. What do you need to know today? What should and then we also have our homebuyer education course. And this is our HUD approved course where you get a nice certificate at the end of completing the course. And a lot of times that's required by different down payment assistance programs. So for example, MSHDA, Michigan State Housing Development Authority, they have a down payment assistance loan, and they require you receive education. So that certificate will qualify you to access, that program. Other lenders have other certain, down payment assistance programs that I'm sure you'll hear about later on. Most of the time, they also require that certificate. So it's really an entry point, into the different opportunities that are available to you as a first-time home buyer. And so, it's a really comprehensive class. We bring in an inspector, an insurance agent, realtor, loan officers to really give you the overview of the entire home buying process. And then you get an audience with them and are able to, answer your questions, live on the call. As far as information, that you should begin to gather, definitely work with a housing counselor. They'll help you kind of through that. But, some of the things that you need to start thinking about is, how much savings you have, what your credit score is, and then, getting your documentation together. Most loan officers are gonna need your W-2s for the past 2 years. They're going to need bank statements for the past 2 months, as well as income documents for the past 2 months. Some require tax returns for the past 2 years. So start thinking of those important, pieces of paper, getting them into one place, and preparing that information. And again, that's something that will help you through to make sure what you need, and when you need to provide it. So hopefully that answered all your questions, Renee. I'm happy to address anything else.
That's great. And how long can somebody work with you through the process?
As long as it takes. We just had a woman who we worked with for over 3 years to purchase a home. So she came to us, the start of 2020, worked with us, through all the way up until this year. And that was all just coaching. She had a lot of debt that she had to, work to eliminate, and to get that credit score up, plus to increase her savings. But we stuck with her, as we will with anyone until they get to that point. So there's no limit. We don't say, oh, it's going to take you longer than a year, we can't work with you. It doesn't matter. We'll work with you from start to finish, to get you to become mortgage ready and able to purchase a home.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And we definitely are going to talk about down payment assistance as this discussion continues. Really quick, I'm so glad we have another attendee that was able to join. Welcome to technical difficulties. We all have them. But Stephen, can you please do a brief introduction of yourself?
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate everyone's patience here. I'm kind of a novice at technology, so bear with me a little. Stephen Bowles, Liberty Bank and Trust Company. Been with the bank 6.5, going on 7 years. Been in mortgage banking for 30 plus years, and glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And you're actually right on time, because we'll be directing some questions to you very soon.
Oh, great.
All right. So before we do that, though, I am really excited to have Lisa on from MSHDA to talk about the programs that MSHDA has that allows people to use their vouchers towards home ownership. And I think there are a lot of there's a lot of information out there about it, misinformation. And so it'll be great to clear it up and truly get an understanding of these programs and how people can utilize them. So Lisa, can you shed some light on how these programs work and what the steps are?
Sure. So it's, in HUD terms, it's relatively a new program. The legislation for it came out in 1999, but it really didn't take off till about early 2000s. And very few housing authorities actually offer the home ownership option. So you could have a Section 8 voucher, but your housing authority may or may not participate in the home ownership option. So that's very important that you understand who your voucher is with and whether or not they have a home ownership program. And there's also another program, 2 separate programs, and this gets a little confusing. But there's another program called the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. And that's an awesome program. 5 years, work with one-on-one with a coordinator. If you're with MSHDA, we have them throughout the state. We have 15 different agencies that help us out with that. And they do, as Alex mentioned, all the counseling. We pay for all of the counseling, from the financial management to economic literacy to homeownership. They work on goals with you, and you can escrow money as you're in that program. So if you go out and you get a job, or you go out and you get a better job and you're paying more towards your rent and the voucher is paying less, we actually put that money in an interest-bearing savings account for you. I sign off on checks every month. I can tell you just this last month, I had 6 graduates, $65,000. Some months I have 20 graduates, $150,000. I mean, these are not small amounts of money. I encourage you that if you have a Section 8 voucher, to really look into if your PHA is offering a family self-sufficiency program. The other thing, though, I don't want to get too sidetracked with that program because I can talk all day about both of them, but the homeownership program, which at MSHA we refer to as Key to Own, it's specific to our PHA. So throughout the state of Michigan, there's 132 PHAs, last I looked. And MSHA just happens to be one of them. We just happen to be kind of a really large one. We have 30 some voucher holders. The typical PHA may have anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 is considered an average PHA. We used to allow everybody to what's called port to us. So if you were with another public housing authority in the state of Michigan and you wanted to use your voucher for homeownership, we would allow you to port to us. Unfortunately, we had to stop that. We had to shut that down due to staffing. I have one staff and half of my time goes towards this program. And we are probably close to the largest program in the nation. Like, we've got it down with partners. We've got it down with counselors. We have about 1,500 people enrolled in the program out of our 30-some thousand voucher holders. We don't cap that. As Alex mentioned, you can be in that as long as you want. Sometimes it takes people 5 years. We're perfectly fine with that if it takes you 5 years to get credit ready and to get where you feel comfortable that owning a home is something that you want, because it's a big step and it shouldn't be, it's not for everyone. I always say that. I said, really look at, where you're at, and if you can mow the lawn, if you can shovel the snow, or have the means of taking care of that. Those are super important things. They're small things, but those are the first phone calls I get once we've transitioned somebody from renting to homeownership with their voucher. And they're like, well, who's coming to plow my driveway? And I'm like, we had this conversation. That's up to you. And so you're mowing your lawn, you're doing all those things. And unfortunately, condominiums, which are a great option, are kind of out of our reach due to what they call HOA fees, the homeowner association fees. And so we do some of them, but more than likely it's got to be a single family residence. So there's a lot of maintenance things that I encourage people to really sit down and look at and say, is this what I want? It's a big responsibility to own a house, and it's great to have your own home. I encourage it, all day long, but at the same time, it is not for everyone. And I always make that caveat. So from the lending perspective, one thing that I hope is happening is that you guys are becoming more aware that if somebody comes to you, to even think to ask the question if they have a Section 8 voucher, because a lot of the participants don't know that they can transition it to homeownership. And so with that comes up to $10,000 in down payment assistance from us, as well as us paying some of the mortgage every month. And you lose your job, we still stick around and we help you find a new job, and we'll pick up that home mortgage. It won't go into default. So it's a pretty huge thing to take the chance to own a house and not take advantage of that Section 8 resource that's there. A housing choice voucher is really what it's referred to as now. And so we close only about 40 houses a year throughout the state. Sounds like not that many, but we have a homeless preference. So we're taking them all the way from being homeless to owning their own house. So it takes us a little bit to get there. And I'm daring to say HUD used to publish this about every other month as to how many closings each PHA did. But just from talking with other PHAs across the country, and that, I'm going to say that MSHA is probably one of the largest in the nation, if not the largest in the nation as far as closings. We're coming close to our 700th closing, and we only have, to our knowledge, one default. And that's huge. I mean, and it's very important to us. We work with these folks because we don't want to see anybody go from using their Section 8 voucher for rent and then transitioning to homeownership and not making it. If they default on that mortgage, they not only lose the house, they lose their voucher. And so now we're all the way back to where we started, back to the homeless part. And that's not at all what we're looking to do. So the biggest thing I can say to you, and I'm here to help too, if you're with other housing authorities and you want to know if they have programs, you're welcome to shoot me an email anytime. We get about 200 phone calls a day just to my phone. I have a student that just answers my phone So with that being said, email is by far the best way to get a hold of me. And I know that I put that in the chat and we can share that with you all. And I'm happy to help, wherever I can. Not if it's not just only related to, I have a Section 8 voucher. What do I do now? I'm even from the lending institutions. If it's something like, hey, I've got a client here, what do I do? And so by all means, circle back to me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, that is a huge opportunity for people who have that housing choice voucher with MSHDA to be able to transition that to a home ownership opportunity along with all of the support, and you'll work with them throughout the process. We did put your email in the chat. So again, if anyone has any questions, they're welcome to put those in the chat and we will address those. But thank you for sharing that, Lisa.
Sure.
And so I'd like to, because we've heard this term come up a couple of times, down payment assistance. I'd like to dig into that a little bit more and get a better understanding of what it is and how it works. And I'll start with maybe Don and Stephen to talk about that. Feel free to jump in and share some information on that, because we hear that a lot, but what is it? How does it work?
So down payment assistance is exactly that. You can work with MSHDA. Depending on the zip code that you are looking to purchase in, you would get anywhere from $7,500 to $10,000 towards your down payment and your closing costs. There are a multitude of assistance out there today, and we're seeing more and more come on board with down payment assistance. The bank that I work for, we have a program called Next Horizon, and that would give you up to an additional $7,500 towards your down payment and your closing costs. There are programs out there that would marry the two. So for instance, Habitat for Humanity, they can use their funds and MSHDA funds and our funds towards a down payment and closing costs to assist in purchasing a home. You would want to speak with a lender. Not all banks, not all brokerages or mortgage companies are created the same. Not all of them do MSHDA. Not all of them have down payment assistance. So starting with your housing counselor or speaking with family and friends to get you on that path is very important. And then finding somebody that you're comfortable working with that will answer your questions for you. Stephen, you have any to interject?
Yes, just I could add just a few things to what Don just stated as it relates to DPA or down payment assistance programs. There's quite a few out there, as Don mentioned. Not every lender is built the same. Liberty Bank has a down payment assistance. Well, I should say, let me correct myself. Closing cost assistance program that will assist the borrower with facilitating their cash to close, and only those dollars or the grant funding that we provide goes towards closing cost. However, we are a MSHDA approved lender. In fact, just before this call, the bank was going through some MSHDA training. I'm very familiar with MSHDA DPA loan programs. And so we will be able to participate and provide consumers, borrowers, first-time home buyers and alike, down payment assistance through MSHDA, participating in their $7,500 down payment assistance program, along with their $10,000 down payment assistance programs, and can couple that with the City of Detroit's recent $25,000 DPA program. So there's quite a bit out there in the marketplace. Loan officers such as myself and Dawn, we need to understand how to layer those programs and provide the best options for the buyer.
Thank you. So can somebody share like a rough example of, what's the benefit of these closing cost assistance and down payment assistance programs for somebody out of pocket? Just on average, how much of a benefit are buyers seeing by participating in these types of programs?
Don?
Well, I can address real life scenario in working with Habitat for Humanity. We closed one recently and used the down payment assistance from us and from Habitat, which equaled right about $15,000. So we used that for a minimum down payment along with the closing costs, and all the funds have to be used. So especially like MSHDA, for instance, if you have a $10,000 DPA, down payment assistance, and you only use, say, $8,000 towards your closing costs and your down payment, which would be about 3%, the remainder would go towards your principal balance. So you've already achieved more equity because you've already reduced the amount of money that you owe on that home. So that leaves hopefully some funds in your pocket, because moving has costs involved with it. Renting vehicles, needing new curtains, flooring, painting, that sort of thing. So it'll also allow you to keep a little bit of your own savings while taking advantage of the down payment assistance and closing cost programs out there for you.
Can I just piggyback real quick, Renee, on that as well?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's huge in my opinion, and there's so many resources out there, and there's so many banking institutions that are giving $2,500 just if you use their bank. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but Dawn hit on it. You're going to have new flooring, you're going to have moving expenses, and those are not things you want to start putting on your credit card. And then all of a sudden you turn around and you've got a $3,000 credit card bill, and now what do you do? Because you're never going to pay that off with making a new house payment that's probably a little bit more than what you were paying in rent, may or may not be, but you have other expenses that come along with home ownership. So I encourage everybody, if you can find the resource and dig and feel free to even reach out to me. Just because I'm doing just a voucher, I still know a lot of resources throughout the state because I cover all of our counties. And one of the things that the voucher is also coming out with it for MSHDA is a $20,000 grant, a little bit similar, Stephen, as you referred to Detroit's, but it's a grant. It's not going to be leaned on the house or anything like that. I should have access to those funds in about 45 days. So that's life-changing in my opinion, because sometimes when I go into neighborhoods and I look at houses, and I'm at, I'm over here at 130,000, but if I could get to that $140,000 mark, I'm moving neighborhoods. I'm moving over to the next neighborhood. And that may just be, near the school and a little bit nicer. And if you have children and things that they see that come across. So it's huge. And so Key to Own is a little bit different. And I have a bunch of lenders here, so I'm going to tell you this and that. Yes, you can do MSHDA mortgages. Key to Own is completely separate from that. We're a separate down payment assistance source, and it gets underwritten a little bit different. Our $10,000 down payment assistance is a 5-year forgivable lien, where MSHDA's $7,500 or $10,000, depending upon where you live, is for the life that you own the house. So when you do sell it, you do owe it back. It's still an awesome resource, and I encourage you to use it. The $20,000 that we're going to be getting here shortly is going to be a straight up grant, and we can use that not just for down payment. We can actually use that to increase your purchase price and your buying power. So there are resources out there. You just have to dig for them, and I encourage you to do that, to take the time to do that.
I agree with everything that's been said, and just to make one note, layering these down payment assistance programs is also very impactful. Because if you've got your closing cost covered, as Don said, you can apply DPA towards the principal balance. And then if you've got additional layers of grant funding or DPA funding, you then lower the principal balance even further, which makes that monthly housing expense much more affordable for that borrower. So it's as Lisa mentioned, it's very life-changing. It's just a matter of executing and pulling those resources together to provide the best scenario for the borrower.
Is it okay if I jump in one last thing, Renee? Okay, so, as a housing counseling, organization, everything that you just heard, is something that we can support you in making it an informed decision around. There are certain, down payment assistance programs, I think it was mentioned previously, that are tied to certain cities or certain counties, certain areas. So what we can do is, work with you to kind of compare, okay, what are you eligible for? And then what, opportunities may you have to layer different down payment assistance, through either government sources, individual, lender programs. So, that's definitely something that can make or break, purchasing a home for someone. So, we spend a lot of time focusing on that. And I'll just share a little thing from my own personal experience. When I was a first time home buyer, I was able to access down payment assistance, and I actually went to the closing table with $100 personal check to purchase my home. So it is possible to access funds that can again make or break your ability to have those upfront costs paid for to make that purchase. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for sharing your own personal story. So just a couple of things I want to pull from that. I think it's really important to understand, while these resources are available, also understanding what the requirements are. So it sounds like some down payment assistance programs attach some sort of lien to your mortgage. And so oftentimes, we're focused on getting the house and closing the house, but it's also important to talk about, okay, after it closes, if I want to sell, what does that look like? And, how do these programs impact me in the future? So having those conversations before closing is also very important as well. And since we've got such a experienced panel here, I thought it would be helpful to just ask this question to the group. What are some items that buyers should know when getting a mortgage? What are some things that they should be aware of, and what types of questions should they be asking?
I don't mind going first. I would say interview your mortgage loan officer and your realtor. As I had said earlier, not all banks or mortgage companies are created equal. So if you're going to a housing counselor first, that's going to be very helpful in letting you know what is available. And then, of course, in particular, most of these programs have those first-time homebuyer classes, which are a great resource to teach you about home ownership, what expectations should be. But make sure you're working with somebody that's answering your questions, returning your phone calls. And one of the things that I feel I've got a lot of experience in this, in that I like to make sure that my clients understand that it's not a no, it's a not now. So finding somebody that's willing to partner with you, and that's really what you're doing. You're building a team. So I would say the takeaway would be building the team that's going to work best for you and attaining that. And that home ownership isn't just buying a home. It's not only building wealth, it's building generational wealth and passing that on to the next generation.
I'd just like to also add that a lot of times when I work with buyers, as far as getting a mortgage, I'm not saying don't do it, but just limiting yourself to one lender or one source of like getting a mortgage. Like a lot of lenders, like she said, have different programs that are best for you that could benefit you in some ways that some couldn't. So definitely use your options, or like use the people or the resources that are available, because one program might be better for you than another.
Darren just hit it on the head, the nail on the head. We run across this a lot throughout the state of Michigan because we're all over the place. We're in all the counties. And we'll get down to the end and we are able to find resources, but the lending institution might not be able to take them. So I think you kind of almost have to do it backwards sometimes. And Dawn said, they're working with Habitat. We just did a Habitat house and we had five different liens on the house, but that house was a $250,000 house and we had to get it down to something affordable for the buyer, which they were approved for $110,000 mortgage. And they wanted to keep their kids in a certain school system. And I encourage that from the bottom of my heart. I've seen that work time and time again, and not uprooting the family or close to your services. The first thing you should look at is, where do I want to live? Not at the house. And I think that's kind of what Darren's saying. And it's the same thing with all the mortgage lenders. You want to make sure that they can accept all the different resources that you can bring to the table before you settle on who your mortgage lender is. So you have to do a lot of homework on the front end to figure out what resources are out there in order to actually make an educated decision as to which lending institution to go with.
Yeah, I would just echo that research is key. I think whether you're a first-time home buyer or not, research your lenders, ask plenty of questions. You've got 30, 45 days or so to allow mortgage inquiries on credit reports when you're shopping for a mortgage. Take advantage of that window and, shop lenders against each other, because as been stated, every lender's not built the same. Some offer various programs. And so you want to make an informed decision, gather as many resources as possible so that, you get the biggest bang for your buck and the most affordable mortgage payment going forward.
Yeah, it's about building relationships, right? So whether it's, with your bank, with a doctor, you want to get multiple opinions, right? You want to talk to folks, make sure that you're comfortable, because you're going to be working for with this person for a while, and more than likely your mortgage is going to be 15 to 30 years. So you want it with an institution, that you're comfortable working with. So definitely shop around, and look at it as a relationship building exercise, and also utilize folks like Alex and the home buyer counseling agencies. They have experience in working with various lenders, as well as Lisa, to find out, what some of the banks and lenders offer. So you can use that as a resource as well. Another key point that I think came up in the discussion is, don't assume what you're eligible for. Don't assume you're not eligible for down payment assistance. Ask, talk about it, see what the requirements are. Don't assume. We have a lot of folks assuming that they can't purchase a home with a mortgage, and so they go into a land contract. And sometimes we see success with that. And sometimes we do not. So I think it would be helpful. I think, Darren, maybe you can shed some light on some information that buyers should be aware of before entering into a land contract.
Okay. So land contracts, a lot of people, a lot of realtors, I want to say, don't necessarily like to use them just because they can get a little finicky. For lack of better words. So you definitely want to review the land contract as far as like your payments, your term, like the term of how much you're going to be paying, because essentially a land contract is entering into basically a mortgage with the seller, or we can call it, like in this case, almost like a landlord, where you'll be paying interest plus a principal like rate towards this owner. Then it goes further because then you have this elongated time frame where the house isn't, or the property isn't being purchased, and then you want to also acquire title at the end of the day. So there's a lot of title work that you want to go through, which is also here, like using a title company, just making sure that you can become that owner once you do end your land contract, and then there's nothing such as like liens or clouds or anything blocking you from getting it, because essentially you'll get to that point where it has happened in the past. You've paid it off, regardless if it was in 2 years or 30 years, and now all of a sudden there's a lien on it. You have title, but you don't have this. But that also goes into turn, like with a realtor, when writing these contracts and things like that, there are certain contingencies that you can place. And then if you are working with a reputable like realtor, they know proper like mechanisms to properly like protect you, like unwarranted things that we don't want on the title once we do take it.
So you mentioned some key points there, and then Alex, I'll let you jump in. You definitely don't want to go into a land contract alone. The document should be reviewed, and you should be working with professionals. You should be working with the title company. Oftentimes, the relationship between in a land contract is the buyer feels like the seller is doing them a favor. So, they just sign the document and assume everything will be good. But the reality is you want to be protected, because whether you're getting a mortgage or a land contract, this is a huge investment. And you don't want to get down the road and find out later that, we've heard crazy stories about people entering into land contracts with people who didn't even own the property. But that could have been identified if they had gone through a title company or worked with a real estate agent. So definitely engage those professionals, whether you're using a land contract or you're obtaining a mortgage. Alex, go ahead.
No, I think you hit it on the head with what I was gonna say. Just use caution. When used properly and not in a predatory way, land contracts can be a good option for some folks. But I just strongly encourage you to use a lot of caution. Make sure if this is something you're interested in, like Renee just said, seek out professional assistance, go through the appropriate motions to make sure that you're protected. And we always usually encourage folks to have the contract reviewed by an attorney as well, just to make sure you're not signing anything, there's not a secret clause in there or something that's gonna prevent you from getting that proper ownership when the time comes. So,
and just quickly to Alex's point, if and when you do hire an attorney, whether for a mortgage review or for a land contract review, get a real estate attorney. Not just any attorney would do.
Now, Alex or Lisa, maybe you can assist with this, because when you suggest for someone to get an attorney, that sounds really expensive. So what kind of resources are available for somebody who does want, legal counsel to review some documents that at an affordable or even pro bono free rate?
Yeah, definitely contact legal aid in your area. It's throughout the state. It's income based. So if you can't afford it, they will help you there. I could spend an hour talking to you about land contracts and the horror stories that I've seen in my 30 plus years. I'm going to date myself a little bit here. I highly discourage them. MISHDA does not allow them in the Key to Own program. We can't do a rent to own, lease to own. Used to have programs that we did in community development years ago, and the title is probably the biggest issue, Renee. But I've also seen things slipped into land contracts that are just crazy. Like, I still own the property for a year after you've paid it off. Like, I've seen that slipped in there, and it's like, yeah, it says it. You signed it. Yeah. So you definitely want, as Dawn said, a real estate attorney looking that document over if you're going to do a land contract or a rent to own type situation.
Thank you. And so speaking of professionals that can help you to purchase your first home, let's talk about real estate agents. So we talked about, creating a relationship with a home buyer counselor, reaching out to MISHDA if you're eligible for the Key to Own program. We've talked about shopping banks and mortgage lenders. So let's talk about what to do when approaching a real estate agent, what questions a buyer should ask, and what services do real estate agents provide?
Okay, so my name's Darren. Let's see. The first thing I think, well, in my opinion, if I was, if the spots were switched over, I would ask a realtor essentially how long they've been in real estate. I know there are realtors like, for instance, myself. I mean, I've been licensed for what, 2 years, going my third year now, but I've been in real estate for about 4 years prior. And with that being said, there's a lot of things that go in real estate. Like, I know about land contracts, I know about appraisals, I know about home valuations, I know about like AVR when doing like flips and this and that and this and that and everything, and like so much legal terminology that you get through like experiencing these things through real estate or as a realtor. So knowing that, I guess, would be number one, because you want someone that's going to basically be able to protect you, be able to get you into the home, although it's not always possible, especially as everyone saw during COVID opening back up. The market was like crazy. And then buying a home is like one of the, as they say, one of the most lucrative things that you can do going forward in life. So you want someone who takes your home buying process as serious as if it was their own. Next, you want to know, let's say we find a home, what methodology they use as far as contingencies, as far as what they recommend, as far as how they think that they can help you best in securing your home. And then also, if they work with a team or if they work by themselves. In my case, I work with a team. My team has more than 30 years of experience. So that gives you some more confidence, and like it basically opens up different avenues for you to basically secure your home. From there, you just want to make sure that you have some sort of like open line of communication with your realtor. Again, like as a realtor, realtors have multiple clients, multiple things to do, multiple people, multiple timelines to satisfy. So just making sure that you guys are on the same page, having that open sense of communication does help out. And then the last two things I think what I would say is familiarizing yourself with the home buying process. Ask your realtor what, as we are doing here, like as a realtor, I could honestly go over all of these things, but then ask them if they have references. So like in the home buying process, I have a preferred lender that I'd recommend for you to do this, because again, I'm not licensed as a lender. So I can give you information basically as far as my experience, but I'd rather give you information from someone who is licensed. And then also ask your realtor if they have any questions for you. Again, this is not about them. This is about you, what you want, what you're trying to get. So just having that, again, that familiarization as far as what you need, who you are, what you want, and basically how they can best assist you, because again, you're hiring your realtor. Also, the one very important thing that I do want to say is usually, well, with my team and my group, as a buyer, realtors are usually free because the sellers usually pay them out of commission. So never be afraid to approach a realtor. And a good realtor, like we all have said, would stick with you throughout the 3 years, the 4 years, the 2 years, however long it needs or you need in order to buy a home. So get a realtor, get yourself introduced to a realtor, because buying isn't like overnight.
Thank you, Darren. So yeah, it's definitely important to create a relationship with the realtor, someone you're comfortable with. They should understand what your needs are, and they should be familiar with the area that you're looking to buy in. Also, your realtor should be able to explain to you clearly what you're signing in a purchase offer, and the terms should make sense and represent what you can actually do. If you have questions about that, and you're working with a home buyer counseling agency or a lender, you can always, use your team, again, to make sure that your interests are being represented well. So I know that we're running short on time, so I'm just going to run through a couple of things before I ask the last question. And just a note for anybody who's tuning in, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll still try to get to those. But so we've talked about a lot of information here. There are other things that come up when purchasing a home, and it's really important to again, make sure that you get an inspection before you purchase the home. You don't want any surprises because surprises are usually very expensive. You want to ask about warranties because warranties are an option. Just like when you get a car, it comes with a warranty. Those are available when you're purchasing a house, and it doesn't have to be a brand new house either. So you want to ask about that. You want to be aware of property tax increases. So if you're purchasing a home that's been owned by somebody for 20 or 30 years, make sure that when you're calculating what your mortgage payment is going to be, it's not based on what the prior owner was paying, because your taxes are going to be a lot more than that. And then, again, you don't want any surprises. And then shopping for insurance, make sure that you do that ahead of time, so you have an idea of what the insurance rates are for the community that you're looking to buy in. And again, utilize the resources, your realtor, your lender, your home buyer counselor for references for different insurance companies. So the last question I want to throw out there, and I'll ask everybody to jump in. We know that buying a home is very exciting, but it can also be a very emotionally draining process. And so if you all could maybe just share a tip for a first-time home buyer as they prepare for this journey, something that they should be prepared for, look forward to, or be aware of. And I saw you come off mute, so I'll start with Darren.
When buying a home, it's a lot of first-time home buyers always want to buy that, what can I call it? Like the unicorn, I guess you can call it. You have like 50 things that, you have like 50 things that you want to check off on your box, but like, it's always good. I did this home buying seminar where like necessities come first and then wants come next, because in order to like buy a house, you need these things, but it's always good to differentiate what you want versus what you need, because then you'll get just stuck in the middle.
Awesome. I always say the first thing you look at is, where do you want to live? Like, is it by your church? Is it by the school that your children go to? Is it by your medical services that you need to be close to? Every day I have people call me and they say, I'm going to move here, and it's like 3 hours away. And I say, why? And they say, well, I found this house over there that looks nice. And I said, so you're going to move away from your whole family, all your services, where your kids go to school. And they kind of stop and they go, oh, that doesn't really make sense, does it? And I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. So number one is look where you want to live, because you're in the market that we're in right now, you're likely stuck there for quite some time because you're buying at the high end. You're not going to be able to like jump ship and just get rid of it and go on to the next one. Renee, you hit some awesome points that I just want to reiterate. Get an inspection, get a private inspection, somebody you choose, not somebody necessarily that the counselor chooses or the real estate agent chooses. That is a federal requirement for our program. And I always used to think to myself, boy, that's a big burden on somebody to put that as a federal requirement. And my mind is completely shifted from that. And that's the best thing that whoever wrote the homeownership regs on this particular program has put in place. So use your resources, all of them, and know that this is going to be very stressful. Every day I talk people off the ledge. Every single day I get a phone call, people crying, they're all upset. And I said, this is the happy part. You've cleaned up your credit. You've got your mortgage. You've found your dream house. It's going to be hard to get to the final stretch on the road, but the rewards are plentiful. So stick it out. And if you need anybody to cheer you through it, call me.
So from, my perspective, don't do it alone. There are a lot of people out there who will help you, not only all of, these folks on the call, but, housing counselors. That is their job. That's what we come to work and do every day. And that's, our purpose. And we're kind of a neutral party. If you think about it, we're here as a support to you. We don't necessarily have, a skin in the game as it relates to, the house or the mortgage or things like that. We're just here as a neutral party to support you and make sure that you, are educated and, prepared. So don't do it alone. Please, 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 call some professionals out there to help you through the process.
And then, so what she's saying, shop around, don't limit yourself to one person. I just wanted to piggyback off of that. And then also piggyback off of Lisa, how she said, this is at the high end of the spectrum, basically, for home buying. A lot of times I have to tell buyers, don't become discouraged. It's okay if you don't get this one, there will be another one, trust me.
Yeah, and to Darren's point, it's a learning curve. I've attributed some of my clients and say that they have on armor because they literally have put in 26 offers. And, be prepared. This is a market that's not for the faint of heart. It is going to be an emotional roller coaster. And don't get distracted by all the bells and whistles, because there are flips out there, right? And I'm sure that Darren can attest to this. And one of the word pictures that I use is, do not buy a pig in lipstick. It may look pretty, but that inspection is so important because it's going to reveal what's underneath. And that's really going to be step one. And make sure you have that savings ahead of time for that inspection, for that appraisal, and for that earnest money deposit.
I would say that, and it's mentioned here in the agenda, pack your patience. It's a process, searching out the right home, understanding the market that you're buying in, as Darren mentioned, that's process. Working with a lender, working with the various programs and understanding how they work and benefit you, that's a process. Having the home inspected, ensuring that you're buying what you should be buying and understanding what you're getting, that's a process. Getting through the mortgage lending process can be daunting depending on what's going on with each person's individual circumstances. That's a process. And so process, you must be patient.
And Anthony, do you have a comment to close us out?
I would tell the person to look forward to spending your first night in your own home.
Yes, that's absolutely something to look forward to. I want to thank everybody for their participation. There's been a lot of great information and resources shared, and I appreciate that everybody on here also shared their contact information, phone numbers, emails, websites for their organization. All of this information has been put in the chat. So please feel free to reach out to them if you have follow-up questions. Again, we really appreciate their time. If you haven't already completed the survey, make sure that you complete the survey. It's really important to us to know, one, that you joined us. Let us know what you think about the session and if there are other topics that you'd like us to cover. And of course, for your time and effort, we do have a raffle gift card that we're giving out if you complete the survey. So, even more of a benefit to filling that out. So thank you, everybody, for your time. I should mention that our sponsors for today, Show Me the Money efforts, include CEDM and First Merchants and consumers. We really appreciate the support so that we're able to bring this programming. And please share this information because we know knowledge is so important. All right, everybody have a great day. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you.